mean, I saw this, I'll never forget. There's a video literally, and I reported on this. There's a shooting in a suburban city in the Lower Mainland, British Columbia. And after the guy commits the shooting, I don't even think he ends up killing the guy. He runs to the getaway car and the freaking doors are locked. I mean, come on, like the cartel operatives are not doing that. So I think that's why they're very specific. They're very specific with their instructions. And also in terms of the gun, I got a lot of questions about that, like why a Glock? Well, first of all, it's very discreet as opposed to like a long arm rifle. But second of all, you have to keep in mind gun laws in Canada are very strict. So any gun they're using is going to be illegal. It's going to be from the United States. And they're going to have to seek it out. They're going to have to find a straw buyer to bring them these arms because acquiring arms in Canada is a very difficult process, particularly if you're going to be acquiring arms for a crime.
Sorry, you cut out the end, but I picked it up. So gun laws. What are the gun laws currently in Canada?
Okay, so in Canada, you have to basically get registered to be able to carry a firearm, and you cannot like carry a firearm on you. The only place that you can have a firearm is on your way to the gun range, at the gun range, or like in designated hunting areas. And the types of guns that you're allowed to have are very specified and based on your registration. The amount of guns that you can own once you're registered, and in order to become like a registered gun owner or licensed gun owner perhaps, you have to go through a pretty strict process to be accepted to do this. Now, in reality, there are a lot of Canadians who own illegal firearms, and there are a lot of licensed, like people in Canada who are licensed to carry firearms who still actually acquire illegal firearms just because of the way that you can get guns. Like, it's always been a culture shock for me, even to this day, to be able to walk into a store in the United States and just like see guns and be able to buy them, because that's not the case in Canada whatsoever. It's extremely strict. And like gun ownership is a very small minority of the overall Canadian population. And like the largest population of Canadians that are owning guns are people living in sort of rural areas who are literally hunting and like using their kill or like prey to make food. Sorry, I'm like really not in that world.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's 100% okay. I don't pay attention to Canadian gun laws, so I was curious. But what I think is interesting is that, you as a reporter who frequents both countries, Mexico and Canada, and you know a lot about Canada, you've been there, and you're starting to see these patterns of these hits that are happening, and you're starting to investigate them. What is the Canadian government doing about it? Do they identify that this is cartel action, or are they just kind of blowing that like, no, it's not cartel, it's just another gang violence?
You see, this is my perception of the justice system and law enforcement in Canada is not an uncommon one. It's very disappointing. There is really little to no crackdown. A lot of the policies are very much about sort of like restorative justice and helping people out and saving the victim, which in theory is great. In practice, especially in Canada, it's not fucking working. And we have yet to see any sort of crackdown in terms of cartel activity in Canada. We actually, in my opinion, have yet to see any acknowledgement from Canadian law enforcement or federal government about cartel activity in Canada. And that's really problematic because literally just the other day I was watching a sort of round table where a bunch of politicians were asking each other questions. I tweeted about it, and a member of parliament asks the head of the RCMP, how many organized crime bodies are there individually operating in Canada? And he says, we don't have a number. I don't know. Which is completely untrue because prior to that, CSIS, which is the Canadian version of the CIA, released a report of there were 600 and something organized crime bodies operating in Canada. And they go on to name some of them, but this is another thing, there is this lack of transparency. For example, um, the American government will say, we are going to designate the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations and we are going to name them for you. And they give you this like list. Okay, cool. I think it's missing some, but at least, we're on the right path, right? The Canadian government will never do this. Calling out an organized crime group by name, no, no, no. Actually, like digging into this, and I have a really solid source within the Canadian government in law enforcement who chats with me quite frequently to kind of give me the updates of what's going on, because really at this point I'm kind of the only person looking into that Canadian cartel connection, which is very strong. And I know it's strong because despite what a lot of numbers say, that less than 1% of fentanyl is coming in from the Canadian border into the United States, that's bullshit. We know that. Like I could and I'm not afraid to say that, because based on anyone that I talk to and any reporting that I do, if I really sat here right now and told you that less than 1% of fentanyl comes from Canada into the United States, I would be lying. That is just completely untrue. The cartel presence in Canada is so strong, and the lack of oversight from the Canadian government and Canadian law enforcement is so strong that at this point, I would call it impunity. No, I'm getting really passionate about this because it is really unfortunate, and a lot of people are dying, and there's too many people in power who are rejecting this notion that the cartels operate in Canada.